We saw Paul George on the court with the Clippers. It was December 22nd, and a torn UCL in his right elbow has kept PG out ever since. However, in the last few days, there's been more of a glimmer of hope, maybe even more than a glimmer, that Paul George could return to the court this season. So now I want to bring in our Clippers reporter, Om Young-Misuk. And Om, Paul George's return, it could have massive implications for the Clippers, who currently sit at 8th in the West. So how close is Paul George to making his return?
Malika, I'm told Paul George is going to suit up and play tonight, barring him feeling something off with his shooting elbow after practicing for the last 2 days. Now, he was cleared to practice in 5-on-5 with no contact, no restrictions on Sunday. And yesterday he did the same thing and he scrimmaged. And look, he has made quite the progression over the last month. He was seen right before the All-Star break still shooting left-handed. And now yesterday he was in practice, seen on video throwing a behind-the-back pass with his right elbow. It looks like old Paul George is almost back, and we should see him tonight, barring him feeling anything wrong after the last 2 days of practice. And this is what the Clippers are hoping to do, is that they hope to ramp up Paul George for the play-in for the remainder of the season, and they might also get even more reinforcements because Norman Powell has been shooting on the court with the team, and I'm told that they hope to have him within the next 7 to 10 days practicing and perhaps back with the team.
Interesting. It always is how you come through that initial workout, that especially those 5-on-5, the full court types of practice, how they come through the night, the next day, how they're feeling. But, likely to play tonight, you're reporting. So we have you here. I have to ask you, Kawhi Leonard, he underwent surgery to repair a partial tear on his right ACL in July, on July 13th. So is there any update on when we might see Kawhi back on the court?
There is no update on Kawhi Leonard. Now, we have not seen him since he was on the floor in Golden State when Kendra shot him on video pregame before the Clippers played the Warriors, working out up there in Golden State. You know, look, he from everything I've heard, he looks good. He is fit. But we have to remember something. He tore his ACL on June 14th in Game 4 against the Utah Jazz. He had surgery a month later. He pretty much is about 9 months removed from that surgery. So this is a power player. We can't forget that. He's meticulous and methodical of the way he plays, the way he works out, the way he rehabs. So I think the Clippers are going to continue to pretty much be careful with Kawhi Leonard, and I'm sure Kawhi is going to do the same thing. But listen, if they're in the playoffs, Paul George is back, Norm Powell is back, and let's say they play Memphis, and I don't know, Kawhi's feeling good. We'll have to see. Tyloo left the door open for him and said that if he's medically cleared to go, he'll return.
Don't tempt Big Perk with a Memphis matchup there. Thank you so much. We will see you in Crypto.com Arena later tonight. So I want to come back with JJ, Perk, and Chiney here. Given what we just heard from Om, if Paul George returns, and again, Om is reporting that it's likely, barring a setback, given how hard he worked out in the last couple of days, how he comes through the night, how dangerous does his presence make this Clippers team? Chiney, I'll start with you.
I think we're talking about doors being open. I think the door is open for the Clippers to make noise this postseason, because you think about the Lakers and how they're trending downward. It looks like the Clippers, and we're both right here sitting in the city of Los Angeles with this news with Paul George. They look like they could be trending upward. Play-in, they're locked in at that 8th seed, because I think it's about 6 losses between them and moving up. This is exciting for them because we know that championship is their goal. They want to, again, exert their influence and box out kind of their own territory here in Los Angeles, and they have an opportunity to build some real momentum that can help them likely when Kawhi Leonard potentially comes back next year, so they can say, we've been battle tested. We got PG back. We've got Reggie playing great basketball. We've got Norm, who I think in 3 games, put up 20 points per game and looked really good. We've got all these pieces. We built that chemistry. We came in the play-in. We learned how to play more confidently and shook off some of those ghosts of the past. And now next season, we are real contenders when we're at full strength and healthy. This is very exciting for Clippers fans.
What do you think, Big Perk?
I'm with Chiney. I mean, first, let me give flowers to Paul George for even coming back, right? He didn't have to come back. But look, just think about what Reggie Jackson and Paul George did in the postseason last year together when Kawhi went out. One could say that they was a top 3 duo in the league while they were playing on the floor together. They were giving people problems. So, yes, the Clippers can be a handful if they get in the playoffs and be a hard first-round exit. I agree.
How much of a handful do you think they'll be, JJ? with
They'll
Paul
be a
George.
handful. There's no question. They were able to close out the Jazz last year after Kawhi got hurt. They had a competitive Western Conference Finals against the Suns without Kawhi. This certainly increases their chances to secure an actual playoff spot and win one of the games in the play-in and make some noise in the playoffs. Paul George has proven to be a top 10, top 15 player in this league. Norman Powell is another great addition that they made along with Robert Covington near the trade deadline. This team has some juice, and Perk knows this. You need great coaching in the playoffs. You need a great game plan. You need great adjustments. Ty Lue has proven to be one of the two best coaches in the NBA right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We have mentioned him in the
Yes,
conversation
sir.
for Coach of the Year. And with Paul George coming back, this could be a very interesting team come playoff time. And speaking of the playoffs, still to come, Pascal. Welcome back to NBA Today, presented by Credit Karma. It is time to go coast to coast on Monday's action. And we're going to start with the Cavaliers, who beat the Magic by 6, but they lost rookie Evan Mobley to a sprained left ankle. X-rays were negative. That's according to Woj. Mobley is averaging 15 and 8 this year. So Chiney, how should Cavs fans be feeling right now?
Oh, they should be happy. X-rays were negative, and that means, ankle rolls. Hopefully he'll be back soon. I know they've been dealing with injury bugs so far later in the season, but I'm not so concerned based on the good news of that prognosis.
All right, well, let's keep it in the East. The Heat, they snapped a 4-game losing streak with a 23-point win over the Kings. Jimmy Butler had 27. Bam added 22 and 15 as the Heat reclaimed the first seed in the East. So, Big Perk, which version of the Heat's up-and-down season is going to show up come playoff time?
The great version of the Heat. Look, they got all the ugly stuff out of the way. Now they're gonna look pretty. Now they're gonna look pretty when postseason comes.
When it counts. All right, let's stay in the East once more. The Hawks, they beat the Pacers for their 3rd win in their last 4 games, and Atlanta is just a game behind the 8th-seeded Nets to avoid 2 play-in games, and Trae Young had his 2nd straight 15-assist game. So, JJ, are the Hawks a sneaky sleeper to come out of the play-in?
I think so. They made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They're battle-tested. They have one of the best players in the league in Trae Young. They're a sleeper.
All right, well, how about the Nuggets? They beat the Hornets behind another triple-double from Nikola Jokic, his 19th this season, 6 more than any other player in the league. And Denver is 6th in the West. So, Chiney, why can't we count out Denver as a title contender?
Because they had less quote-unquote talent this year with Jamal Murray out, Michael Porter Jr. trying to get back. And somehow he's still in the conversations for most valuable player, which is a testament to Nikola Jokic. Anything is possible for how he plays.
He is not just in the conversation. Jokic, the reigning MVP, he claimed 62 of the 100 first-place votes in the 3rd and final iteration of ESPN's MVP straw poll, jumping way ahead, I think it's fair to say, of Joel Embiid with 29 first-place votes, and then Giannis Antetokounmpo with 9 votes. And just a reminder, in this straw poll, our ESPN reporter Tim Bontemps, he simulates the MVP voting. So he asks 100 media members for their top 5 MVP candidates. So in addition to that straw poll, Caesar Sportsbook has just adjusted the NBA MVP odds to make Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid co-favorite. So it had been Embiid, remember. Given all of this, and I would be remiss not to say that adjustment was made after this straw poll came out. So I want to do a little straw poll NBA Today style and make the case for the other guys. We talk a lot about Jokic. We talk a lot about Joel Embiid. So if they finish strong, and just so viewers know, the group text, it was popping off with who's going to make the case for whom. But Perk, I want to start with you and an upset. You wanted to make the case for Giannis. Go ahead.
I do, because I feel like we're getting bored with Giannis and his dominance, right? This is a guy that's averaging 29, 11, and 6, almost 7 assists. And when we look at Giannis, yes, he has Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, which makes it even more impressive because he's able to go get those numbers when he still have 2 all-star caliber players playing alongside of him. And I think we're taking him for granted like we did LeBron James when he was making those runs in the Eastern Conference and he could have won multiple MVPs. It's the same case for Giannis. The Bucks are still at one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference and they have been flying under the radar, and Giannis has gotten better.
All right, so I said this was an upset, and that's because you didn't choose Ja Morant. Chiney Agumake did. So what is Ja's case to win MVP, Chiney?
If we're talking about players that have gotten better, I feel like Ja Morant has to be at the top of the list, especially since we said, oh, he's too good to graduate from most improved, Mr. Perk. We've got to put him in most valuable player conversation. This guy, you remember, I got the receipts. 27 and 8 so far this season, about 7 or 8 points more improved from seasons past. And just look at the Grizzlies. What are they, 53 and 23 on the season, the second best record in the NBA? Sometimes you get a shooting star, right? So many stars are out there, but you get a shooting star in an astronomical type of season for the Grizz where we did not see that happening, or we did not expect that as much. That's what Ja has done. He's galvanized this group. He's had a dominant season, and I feel like he could steal some MVP votes very easily.
Well, listen up, Suns fans, because JJ is about to make the case for Mr. Devin Booker to be MVP.
This.
Go ahead, JJ.
The easy answer here is he's the leading scorer on the best team, but it's really, really much deeper than that. He's the 10th player to average at least 25, 5, and 5 on a team with a winning percentage of 800 or better. 8 of those previous 9 players have won MVP. We talk all the time about his clutch time performance. The Suns are 24 and 5 in clutch games that he plays. He's shooting 57% from the field and 41% from 3 in clutch time. And perhaps most importantly, everybody thought the Suns were going to fall off when CP got hurt. He went for 28, 5, and 7 and led the Suns to an 8 and 3 record. Perk makes fun of me all the time because I'm an analytics guy, but I'm also an eye test guy, and my eyes are telling me he's a deserving MVP.
All right, Chiney, you're the queen of, all right, I'm going to give multiple players their flowers here.
I want to do it for all players, but
who else you got?
I've got Jason Tatum because a lot of times after All-Star break, we see people miss the Celtics. We see people really solidify their cases for awards. And Jason Tatum, he's been balling. I mean, 33 points per game, second in NBA, scoring this month of March. And also the Celtics have been surging. It's not easy to revive a franchise that had great expectations mid-season with a first-year coach. And he's really emerged as that quintessential leader for Boston. And so I love to see his development. I love to see, we see these numbers, but now you're seeing him career highs in points, in rebounds, and assists. He deserves to be in the conversation as well.
All right, so we've hit on Jason Tatum, we've hit on Ja Morant, we've hit on Devin Booker. Obviously, Giannis, Jokic, Joel Embiid. But what about Luka Doncic? And for me, this is the three-pronged reason as to why he should be in the MVP conversation. Number one, he does it all. Luka is the only player in the league right now to average 25, 8, and 8. Number two, he carries this team, and this is what we talk about with Nikola Jokic. This is what we talk about with Joel Embiid when he didn't have Ben Simmons. He is second in the NBA in usage rate. That's behind only Joel Embiid. And reason number three, he impacts winning. When he is on the court, the Mavs win 66% of their games. If you take him off of the floor, it is just not the same team. So because he's able to put this team on his back, I know that the Mavericks, they still have something to prove in the postseason. This is a regular season award, and Luka Doncic is absolutely deserving of being in that conversation. What do you think, Chiney?
Oh, I agree. I just love them. I feel like we Oprah today. You get an MVP. You get an MVP. You get an MVP. I think there are a number of deserving candidates. It's going to be really interesting to see how those votes oscillate, down the stretch. Go ahead, Perk.
You know what I find? You know what I find crazy is that when we look at the MVP conversation right now, and we look at all the MVP candidates and the guys that's supposed to be in the conversation that we consider to be in the conversation, guess what? They're international players. And I remember this summer, I said something about international players are taking over the game of basketball. And one of the current players in Draymond Green had something to say to me. But when you look at the guys who have won the MVPs over the last 3 years, they've been international players. Giannis, Jokic. When you look at guys that have won the Defensive Player of the Year award, it has been Giannis and Rudy Gobert. So to me, when I look at this and we think about Jokic, we think about Embiid, we think about Giannis, we think about Luka. Those are 4 of the top 7 guys in the NBA that are international players that we actually could make a case for winning the MVP. So when I talk about things like this and I say things like that at the moment, people think that I'm crazy. But no, it's really right here in front of your face that the international players are actually taking over the game of basketball.
Well, speaking of international